Yeah. So, yeah, we just got back from Nieuwerdshof for their Charming of the Plow. Is the first trip across the country we'd taken in quite a few years. Was it worth it? Yes, absolutely. This was the fourth Hof. We had actually been at Sigerheim for a few hours one afternoon with our wonderful Nick Rice. And that was I can still visualize it. I can still hear the hum of the insects and feel the heat that beat down on us. And that I think was late July or early August. I mean, it was indelible in my life to spend a few hours there at Sigerheim. Of course, I expect to be back at some point. But something you may know that I have a group that I call the Eldry. But in with the Eldry, which is our elders, people age 50 and older. If you're getting close, you're welcome. Um, when I generally will have a topic, and one of the topics has been bucket lists. What's on your bucket list? What have you achieved? Those kinds of things. Light conversation for people that we all would have something in common. So I think about bucket lists. I think about things I've done. Some are serious goals and some are very lightweight. And it kind of came to me that this was a topic I was aware of and concerned about because when we were flying back on the plane Sunday night, there was a very large framed black man that was sitting next to my husband, and they started talking military because Steve had his jump wings on his jacket lapel, and it immediately started a conversation with this fellow who is also former military, and ended up with a very substantial retirement income due to some disabilities he has, enough so that he can play with the money. He has enough to make a bucket list and be able to do lots of things on the bucket list. He is, in fact, at this point, as he described it, every month he's going on a cruise. A cruise was the Caribbean, he's done Hawaii, all these cruises. And it's to the point where it's boring to him. He can't remember which one. He can't, you know, tell them apart anymore. They've all just kind of piled up in his mind. And I'm thinking, wow, that was on his bucket list, but he's to a point where it doesn't bring that wonderful sense of expectation and joy that he once had. And I thought, well, what do we have on bucket lists? A lot of people may put, they want a new car, they want something very much in the material realm of things. Well, yeah, people do that. But I want us to think, what if you put things on your bucket list that would be exalting, exciting, impactful, and of historic value? Well, we do that. If you're in the AFA, if you're listening right now, you're probably doing that. Um, that is exactly what we have in our church. Every Hof has its own culture and ambiance. I've been to Thorshof, I've been there for Ostara, I've been to Baldershof back when it was Fall Fest, and certainly are in Odenshof. Now, these change over time, they change season to season, and even who's there, who's in leadership, who's there, and all that. So there is no across the board feeling you're going to get if you go to a Hof because it can change. But it is so important to have um, the temple, our Hof to our gods. And we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the AFA the other night. A cake was brought out with a 3 and a 0, and my husband and I each blew out a candle on that cake. And it really is a very remarkable thing that we are at this point. To have not just one Hof, that was always the dream, but 4 Hofs in Sigerheim, and soon to have 5 or 6. It's quite incredible to think that we're at this point. But it's not just shouldn't be for us alone. It should be for everybody who is involved. When we're at the Hofs, we do rituals. We honor the Aesir, our holy gods and goddesses, our ancestors. We're constantly calling on them, and the Landvetu, the land spirits that are there. But we also are with our folk. And one thing at Njordshof that they did so very well is they had a wonderful symbol, which is the ritual we do, a toasting ritual that really helps bind the folk together. And I realize at our own Hof, we've been kind of missing that. We have so many things happening at Odenshof. We often don't get to the symbol until it's too late and people have left. And that's a mistake because being at a Hof is about building those bonds with each other. And when people do that, it's natural for them to also perhaps be a volunteer to step in and ask what they can do to help out or to offer to do some special dishes or to even take care of the garbage, take out the trash or help with parking or whatever, or on work days, come out and do some painting or cleaning. And there were so many times on that dark red carpet that we had to get out the vacuum cleaner. I won't say we did. I know Alexander, who's on this call, was vacuuming, and they had the little carpet sweeper and getting up all the little flakes of white, this and that. And we need that. But some people come to a Hof and it might be their first time and they just kind of sit back and they just observe. Hey, that's okay too. Of course, we want you to do that. We want you to pick up on the feelings that you get in a Hof, and it should feel very, very warm and inviting. Everybody who is involved with managing a Hof, all of our leadership, or even our regular members who come month after month, year after year, they should make it feel like you have come home. And that is the way we want every Hof to feel, that you have come home, that it's a family reunion, especially if you can come to the big events, but even the monthly events, it should feel like you're back with family. Um, so the one thing is that all that ritual that we've done imbues each Hof with some subtle energy. It does feel peaceful. It feels calm. It feels safe and warm. And, nobody ever bothers our Hofs. You would think with the kind of reputation that we have, that there would be a lot of people trying to do harm, but they don't, because we are so well protected from all those holy spirits that we call on month after month after month. That's part of it. And I think we ourselves exude that because, again, we don't live in fear. We live in wonderful expectation, knowing that we've got strength and we can overcome, and all those things we all share when we're together. And a united front and united family is what we are at every single Hof. Some people may think about, and other people, not us, but they may want to go to Lourdes or the Sistine Chapel or someplace that had a particular religious event that was very noteworthy, that's very famous, right? Um, and so that's on their bucket list, back to the bucket list. But we have it in the AFA. We have our own temples to the gods, and that equals Lord going to Lourdes or the Sistine Chapel, or for Muslim going to a mosque. We have it right here, and it is amazing because it has never happened before. I mean, those are hundreds of years old, those other places. Well, our temples are not, but they are just as important to us, if not more, because it's been such a struggle to get here. 1,000 years since we had Hofs to the gods, and never in our country, never in the United States, where people could come together and celebrate and know that it was not owned by a chieftain or by a king or by even a farmer. These Hofs belong to us, every single one of us. Every time you make that donation payment every month, or you do an annual, it may not be much money, but it is shared at each of the Hofs. It goes into a general fund where it is shared, and it goes to every single one of those Hofs and always will. And so you could say ownership, but it's also every one of those Hofs is your Hof too. and know that you have a right to attend every single Hof and to get the full experience of what it's like being in the far north in Minnesota, or in the south in Florida, where it was really quite cold this last week, or out there in the beautiful rolling pastoral area of North Carolina, and even in our kind of rugged mountainous country, the foothills of the Sierras, where we have Odenshof, kind of a very much like an Appalachian kind of a community, because it's unincorporated, it's rural, and people struggle there. It's just the way it's always been. And so it suits us really, really well. But everyone has every Hof has its own way of its own feeling and its own memories that it leaves the people who come there. So I really encourage you to come to the Hofs. You can be passive or you can take on an active role, and that will always be welcome. You can, in an area, if you don't have Hofs, the active role you can take is to see if there are moots being hosted near you and try to attend them. I know a lot of you out in the East Coast do get out to some of the really cool moots you have out there, the meetups. But if there isn't one and you have an idea of something you'd like to do, reach out to your folk builder and just say, for instance, we're doing a Celtic fair in 2 weeks way down Central California, and we'll be down there for the weekend just so we can meet up with people. It's not at our home, it's at a public place, and it should be a good event. But we even do those too. And you can host your own event if you're not near a Hof and get that feeling of being with others who share the passion and the love of our gods and love of family and ancestors and love of our folk that we want to continue forever. So do try to get out and meet others when you can. We all, through our right action, build what we call haminya. It is that strong blessings of the gods, blessings that comes from being strong and sometimes courageous, and again doing the right things that carries with us into the other world when we pass through the veil. And that's almost can be felt when you're with people who have done a lot of wonderful stuff and are comfortable with who they are, and they give off that sense of peace, but also of strength and nobility, right? We use that word a lot too. Well, I think our Hofs also have that. So as you come to a Hof, you are adding to that energy that is in that Hof. You will leave your mark there at every Hof you go to. So I encourage you to play an active role if you can, help build our church, choose your path, and just as they say in the Hofemol, be remembered for what you do, for what you choose to do, for your decisions, your actions, make them count. So you get to choose what's on your bucket list. If you can visit the Hofs, you can't do it all in 1 year. Nobody can. Matt does, or else Harry Gothi. But, if it takes 10 years or 15 years, yeah, still put it on your list. It's a good one. It's better than being bored by going on cruise after cruise. Will it help you play a significant role in the future of our folk? Yes, it will. History is in the making. We're doing it right now. You can become part of a legend. You can be that legend by doing some great deeds for our church. So I began with the words about choosing actions that are exalting, exciting, impactful, and of historic value. I think you can see that being active in our church allows us all to do those things and achieve all that. So that's pretty much the end of my talk.
That's wonderful, ma'am. You mentioned traveling to all the Hofs. Gothi Trent East wrote an article a few months back about a Blótferð, as in that
Yes.
travel between the Hofs. And I know there's there's a few of us in leadership that have accomplished what I guess I call the circuit of hitting all of the Hofs in Sigerheim. I reckon there's probably 5 or 6 or 7 of us and some spouses of leadership that have done it. But then we recently had the one member at the end of last year. He went on a giant cross-country trip, and it wasn't during, the events. It wasn't during the national events. It was just he wanted to travel the country, and he stopped by every single Hof and Sigerheim, got with leadership in the areas so he could, they could open the doors, he could meet them and talk to them and see the Hofs and such. And I met him out at Sigerheim and such, and he wrote an article about it. I want to say it went in maybe the December runestone. I think he did it in November and it went into December runestone. Maybe I'm a month off, but there's all kinds of ways to do it. Or like I did, I've been to all of the Hofs. I think I went it took me like 3 years. Like you said, it doesn't have to be all at once. Just made a trip out. I finally wrapped it up with Midsummer last year at Odin's Hof, and it's wonderful. And just getting to see and interact with all the different people, all the different folk. And as you said, every Hof kind of has its own bit of culture. There's a lot of things that are in common, but there's a lot of things that each Hof does different, unique, a little special. I got the proper welcoming to California with the wildfires and all that stuff, so it was fun. But I really appreciate it, and yeah, it's absolutely something. And even if as you said, even if it takes 10 years to get to all the Hofs, just go to any of the Hofs, go to the moots, hang out.
Any of them.
Yeah, it's fun. And as Heather said, if you're planning to start that journey, it's good times right now. Come on out to Thorshof for Ostara in just about a month. It'll be the 4th weekend of March. What is that? The 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, something like that. What's it gonna be? It's gonna be 21st, 22nd, 23rd.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be amazing too.